Welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this video, it's because you know I have a new project that's coming up. Let me go ahead and walk you through it. Okay guys, so we've got a new project. You can see it here behind me. But before I get into this, let me talk just a little bit about where we are on the car journey. If you follow the channel for a while, you know that I go through all kinds of different cars. I've been doing a lot of Land Rover stuff lately. The D1 build that's on the channel, I'll leave a link to the build series for that. But that D1 I got about 10 months ago. I've been driving that daily. I've loved that car and had planned to drive it daily for quite a while. However, and in the spirit of complete honesty, I'm going to share this with you guys. You know, life is life, right? So I think there's all these car channels. You see people driving like crazy stuff and exotics and all these other things. And like, there is a reality to this car stuff, at least for me, in terms of the fact that it's a hobby and a passion on the side. And I've got a family, we have kids, we have sports and school and all those kinds of things. So rewind about 3-4 weeks ago, we have a daily driver. It's a 2015 X5. That's kind of like our new car. That's always been the car that, you know, we can rely on, and it's, you know, low mileage and in good shape and comfortable and good for road trips and all that. So it's allowed me to have a lot of these older cars like the Range Rover Classics, the D1, you know, sports cars like a 911 that really only seats 2 people technically, all that. So X5 went down for a few days, and the stable of cars is in kind of an interesting spot because right now we've got the 2 Range Rover Classics that we're still working on. We had the D1, and then I just picked up the E46 M3 you guys have seen on the channel. Sold the 911. So basically leaves us with 2 very old cars, one of which runs but is, you know, finicky because it's old, one of which is still being restored, an E46 that is manual, and then a 3-inch lifted off-road D1. So when the X5 went down, we really didn't have a just easy car, you know, something that my wife could drive and take the kids to school and all that. So long story short, we ended up renting a car even though we have like 5 cars. Obviously, that's a silly problem to have. Don't regret driving the D1. You know, I think it's just as the journey continues, I've decided, hey, look, we probably need a second daily driver that is comfortable and is modern and that the whole family can drive if they need to, you know, isn't manual and so on. That said, it's sort of a win-win because admittedly, I've really missed Porsche after I sold my 911, and it's been probably about 6 months since I did that. So this was an opportunity to get a good daily driver, which you see behind me, but also get back into Porsche. And I've actually never owned a Porsche SUV, so I'm pretty excited about this build just to check out everything there is about like the Cayenne Macan series. I know a lot of people love those cars, and I always needed an SUV, but I've always gravitated towards Land Rover and Range Rover. So let me go ahead and take you through what we bought, what the plan is. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter series just because as I walk you through, you'll see I'm not doing a crazy amount to this, and a lot of what I'm doing are items that, you know, come with an instruction sheet that's pretty straightforward, or they're like really easy how-tos online. So I'm not going to go as in depth with like every single step on this build. It's going to be a lot more of kind of what I chose, why I chose it, before and after, so you guys can see how it looks on the car. So that way, if you have one of these and you're thinking about some of these upgrades, give you some guidance. So let's go and hop in. Okay, so the car is a 2011 Porsche Cayenne 958. It is the .1 as a 2011, so it's the first variant of the 958. There was one generation before this. It's a very popular generation if you're going to do off-road. There's a whole lot of reasons for that. Videos on that. It has a lot to do with how the car drives 4-wheel, off-road, the transfer case, how many speeds and gears it has, everything like that. But the 958 is the next gen. It's a pretty big upgrade from the original gen Cayennes. That said, it's not the newest, and it's insane, in my opinion, what you can get these for price-wise. I was shocked at how inexpensive it was to pick up this model. So let me walk you through it. It's a Cayenne S. So I went with the S version of this car because it's really a ton of bang for the buck. It's got a 400 horsepower, 4.7 liter V8. So that is a lot of power. Basically puts out, and it's like 370 foot-pounds of torque, something like that. So, you know, 400 horsepower is about what I was running in the 991. Now, I understand this is 1,000 pounds heavier, but that's still a lot of power for an SUV. I think it's a good sweet spot. Obviously, there's the GTS model, which has more. There's a turbo model, which is a turbo. On the turbo side, you know, I actually shied away from that. And I'll talk about options here in a second, but I shied away from the turbo because, I don't know, it's just one more complication. I feel like the V8 engine's probably just a little more straightforward from a maintenance, reliability, and repair cost standpoint. So Anyway, Cayenne S 2011 with the V8. In terms of options, this car came with a medium set of options. I'd call it a medium build. The sticker on this was about 80,000. So if you guys know anything about Porsche, you know, there's the car and then there's the options, right? And like what it was optioned with makes a huge difference. So if you don't know, you can go to vinanalytics.com. You can type the VIN number in for any Porsche and it will tell you all of the original options that were on that car. And it's super important when you're shopping Porsche because a lot of times these dealers, especially like third-party dealers that do a lot of different brands, they don't know how these cars were optioned. And the difference in options can be like a 20, 30, 40, maybe even $50,000 swing on the sticker price. And so you're able to buy a lot of those quote options at a, you know, mostly or fully depreciated state when you buy the used car. Like somebody, for instance, paid maybe $3,000 or $4,000 for some kind of option when they bought their Porsche. Well, you might pay nothing or maybe a few $100s in the, you know, sale price today on a 2011 or 12 for that option. So it's a really smart way to buy Porsche is just buy something that's got a good ownership history and it's got a great build sheet and has a lot of the options. That said, this one has some styling options mostly. And so it's got a tan interior. I'll show you that in a second. It's got this exterior gloss trim package that kind of just ties in the whole look as opposed to these being, I think, like a matte or a plastic, something like that. It's got PDLS from a lighting perspective, which is good because we do a good bit of night driving with dailies. It's got a few other things. It's got the Bose sound system, which is great. I mean, it's not Burmeister, but at least it's not the bass. But other than that, you know, it doesn't have like PCCBs, as you can see. That is an option, believe it or not. I don't know why you necessarily put that on an SUV. It does not have PASM suspension. It does not have the air suspension, so there was an option to put air suspension on these. It comes standard on other models. You know, all those things. And so again, just my 2 cents, those are cool options and I think they're nice. You know, they're definitely features, but from a reliability maintenance standpoint, which is a lot of what this car is about, that's just one more thing to fail. You know, the air suspension, like if that goes out, it's expensive. Trust me, I know. I've owned several Range Rovers with air suspension and, you know, it's like $1,000 to $2,000, you know, per air shock if they go out. And then there's the compressor and there's the tanks and it's just a lot. So I kind of like that this car is like mid-range, like they did some styling and aesthetic upgrades to the car. You know, it is an S model, but it's pretty simple. You know, it's a V8 with not all the bells and whistles. And so it's just likely to probably be more mechanically sound. So that's kind of the overview of the car. Let me walk you through the interior and all that, and then we'll talk about what we're doing. All right, so as you can see, tan interior with the piano black as the accent. Really like this interior. I am admittedly very partial to tan interiors on daily drivers. I think that if it's a car you're going to spend a lot of time in terms of like running errands and these kinds of things, it's just really inviting. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a much warmer vibe than black. Obviously, my 991 had black. I've got other cars that have had black, but in like the Range Rover Sport, the white one, the Stormtrooper that we did, which was a daily, it had a, you know, ivory. It was sort of very light, but tannish interior. And the D1 obviously was white with tan. So I don't know. I've just sort of gravitated towards white exterior for dailies because they're much easier to keep up. They always look pretty good. Granted, this one looks filthy because it's been sitting out since I bought it over the last week. But generally speaking, like they're easy to clean. They don't show swirl marks and scratch marks and all those imperfections. So if you're going to park it outside, which I will be parking this one outside, and you want just something clean and timeless, you know, I really like white as an option. Obviously, I got the E46 in white. I'm sort of starting a trend here. But yeah, white with tan, you know, back seat is super nice. It's got a lot of legroom. Honestly, from the outside, this car looks smaller than the older gen, but they have actually made it bigger overall. So it's sort of a design trick that Porsche was able to do on this car, which is great. So in the interior, you get the benefit of that, which is, you know, lots of space in here, plenty of room, you know, for our kids and all the stuff like groceries and errands and stuff like that. These are flip down. So, you know, these seats give you a lot of flexibility in terms of, you know, space and storage and hauling things. And I'll move around the back real quick. And we've got our trunk area, which, you know, again, is good size. Like deceivingly large, in my opinion, especially when you've got the flip down. So what is the plan for this car? There's sort of two phases to the plan, okay? Phase one is fix all the stuff that's wrong with it. So I got a amazing deal on this car. It was already priced aggressively. I talked him down another $3,000 to $4,000. And a lot of it was because of stuff like this. There are badges that are peeling and have issues. There are small little pieces like this piece right here that needs to be painted. This piece is chipped. You know, just little aesthetic stuff. The whole car needs a compound and polish and a ceramic coat, which is on the list, just to get paint where it is. But one thing I know about Porsche paint is when you do that, it comes to life fast. You know, this is super high quality paint, so this car is going to look brand new when I get that done. You know, there aren't any major dents, dings, or scratches, which is great, but a lot of it is just little stuff. Floor mats are missing. It's like, why wouldn't you go out and get a set of floor mats? I mean, come on. So, you know, just little stuff like that. The front end, you know, got, again, little paint chip that needs to be addressed. You know, trim's a little faded. We're going to hit that with C4 Trim Restorer. You know, we'll polish up the headlights. They look great anyway. You know, it's got factory stock wheels. Steering wheel, you know, it's okay, but it's got a lot of wear. And this is the base steering, like this is the steering wheel that comes with it, but this is the oldest version of a steering wheel. If you follow like 9M1s and Macans and Cayennes and pretty much any Porsche, you know that this steering wheel is not a favorite. It's not a fan favorite for sure. These paddle deals people do not like. They think this just generally looks old. So we're going to replace the steering wheel. This is one of the upgrades I'm most excited about. The nice part is, you know, it's necessary. So like I got money off from the sale price, the fact that they're cosmetic flaws and blemishes. So it's kind of offsetting the fact that I'm doing an upgrade anyway. So we're going to upgrade this to a 2019 Macan steering wheel in the Luxor beige. Multifunction. It's the one that's got the openings, you know, in here, and it's got the paddles, and it's just a super modern, like what you see in like a 9M1.2 basically. So really excited about that one. I'm using a special adapter from GPS that's going to preserve all of the multifunction and paddle shifting capability with that new wheel. So there will be a video on that. That's definitely a bit of a unique deal. But yeah, like just overall, the rest, you know, the trim's like in good shape, the handles are in good shape, things like that. Goal is phase one, get all the little stuff fixed. Okay, I've got pretty much everything on order for that. Front hood badge, as you can see. Yeah, that's seen better days, so we're gonna pop that out. That is the easy stuff, right? Phase two is the aesthetic upgrade. So with this build, I've already gotten a ton of messages on Instagram like, hey, you're doing an overland build and lifting it and blah, blah, blah. And I totally get where that's coming from. Obviously, I've done that to the Stormtrooper. I did it to the D1. Like every daily I've had for the most part, I've done that too. The plan for this car is to not do that. So this car, again, the whole point is something that like the whole family can drive, something that's practical, it's comfortable, it's good for our kids, it's like good for road trips, things like that. So we're dialing it back a little. We're showing a little restraint, okay? And so what we're gonna do is like a luxury active build is kind of like what I'm calling it. So on the exterior, we're gonna swap the wheels first and foremost. These wheels are about as dull as it gets. They're 20s. Look, they're fine. Look, the upside to Porsche wheels is that when you go to sell these, they are worth so much money. It's amazing how much you can get for these stock wheels. So that'll help pay for the majority of what we're doing wheel-wise. But we're gonna go 21. So slightly larger. I think this car really needs 21s. Personally, I've seen it on 21s. It looks much better. It comes with quite a bit of wheel gap. It's pretty typical. So the 21 should help there. We're doing the RS Spider Cayenne wheels. So if you're familiar with like the newer 2020 Beyond Cayennes, the newest gen, there is an option for like a very sharp looking, like geometric, spokey wheel. It is really good looking. It just ups the game on the car 100%. So we're going to go with that. From a wheel perspective, we are going to add running boards. The factory running boards for this car are very subtle. They kind of just come out to, I don't know, like here, you know, like just a small amount. They really tuck under nicely. They don't like jut way out, but they are kind of nice just to kind of round out the look and kind of connect this, give it a little bit of that like lowered vibe. But also practically speaking, again, we have some young kids, helps them, you know, step up into the car. That way they can like get in, close the door themselves, all that. We don't have to constantly be like opening doors for them. So we are going to go with factory running boards. I did order some fender extenders. I don't know what you want to call them. Like they're basically trim pieces. This is a very flat profile, as you can see on these fenders. And so they make a factory extension you can get from Suncoast, which is where I got most of this stuff, that takes that out like, again, just subtle. You know, we're not talking crazy. It's like maybe an inch or less. We're going to put them on. I'll probably paint them body color so they look just even that much more factory, but it'll give the wheel well just a little bit of extra depth. and then we will see where the offset is in the wheel. We'll get some spacers, get the stance right. As you guys know, I'm all about wheel fitment and stance. So we're gonna get all that dialed in kind of along the bottom, right? And then on the top, we have already ordered, and actually my first project is to install a Thule roof rack. And so on a lot of the cars I've had, they come with a roof rack, or at least roof rails. The D1 had a rack on it. The Stormtrooper had a rack, and I ordered cross rails from Powerful UK. So this is interesting. This came with what they call naked roof. You know, actually this is pretty common for the Cayenne. Most people option this without roof rails. Don't know why, but I ordered a set from Thule that basically has pack of feet that are specifically designed to, you know, wedge in this area here, you know, use these channels to secure themselves with the crossbars. And also got 2 bike trays. We have bikes. We actually like to take bikes out. I personally have a Yeti mountain bike I like to use on the trails around here. I don't do enough of it. I wish I did more, which is sort of part of the goal of having a rack set up for that. I haven't ever had a roof rack lately that had bike trays. So I've got a Yeti, and I do some mountain biking here in town. The family's got bikes. We like to kind of bike on areas like the Beltline here in Atlanta, if you're familiar with that. So went with a aluminum Thule rack. So kind of that higher end look with the brushed aluminum, so that it kind of, you know, looks really nice against the white, and it's gonna match the running boards and all that. So Thule roof rack up top. Okay, I mentioned a steering wheel swap that we're gonna do. So that'll be the upgraded steering wheel. One upgrade I already did, I couldn't resist. I did put in Redline's phone mount for this car. It's actually pretty slick. It kind of hides behind this vent. You take this vent out, use the screws that hold the head unit in, and then put that in, and it like just sneaks out. It's like a panel that comes out and then just has that little angled piece of metal and holds that. So that's actually super impressive. So did the Redline phone mount. We've got floor mats on order, obviously, factory floor mats, Luxor beige. Put a all-weather mat in the back, which I think you guys already saw from WeatherTech, but definitely want an all-weather mat back here at least. You know, I got pretty spoiled with all-weather mats throughout on the D1, which was great for like baseball and soccer and all the things we go to. So on this, at a minimum, we need an all-weather mat back here so we can like take off the cleats and balls and gear and all that if it's dirty from one of those, and like throw it in here so the interior of this car doesn't get just completely smoked. So we ordered that, and yeah, a couple other things that of course I'll take you through as we go through the build journey. So the one other thing that we're gonna do on this that I knew going into it we would have to do is we're gonna look at the transfer case. So if you do any research at all on the 958 Cayenne, you're gonna know that the transfer case is kind of like the big thing. So it gets loose, it starts to bind and move around, metal shavings get in the fluid, those kinds of things. So when Porsche first put this out, they said that the fluid and all this in the differential, the transfer case was lifetime. People realized very quickly if you don't do proactive changes on that fluid, it starts to really screw up the overall differential, and then you need to replace it. So don't know the history on whether that's been done or not on this car. This car does have a great history for what it's worth. It was originally purchased at one of my absolute favorite spots, like in the US from a car perspective, the Collection down in Miami. They are the group that hosts the epic, absolutely epic Cars and Coffee for DRT with the crepes and champagne and all that. So I know for sure it was sold by a great and reputable group. And it was also serviced there up until 30 or so thousand miles, which is what the first owner put on it. So that history was great. It was then serviced for the next 40, 50,000 miles at a Porsche dealer down in West Palm. And so again, the dealer is going to do what they're supposed to do, recommended services. Don't know if they looked at the transfer case or not. No way to know. I've tried to kind of research and can't find out. Car now is 94,000 miles. It's kind of right in that sweet spot for transfer case issues. So when I test drove it, I noticed it has some of the symptoms, some of the indicators of a problem. So it's got a little bit of like jerkiness and kind of like uneven acceleration, kind of pulses a little bit. It does have a knocking when you kind of first start to go through some of the lower gear. So I'm almost positive it's going to need to be replaced. I already have my shop here in town, Auto House Social, which you guys know well. My buddy Nash and the team down there. Joseph put some numbers together on that. So we've already kind of got that built into the price. I negotiated basically the cost of a replacement for the transfer case completely out of the price. So we built that price in. We probably will be replacing the transfer case over the next couple of weeks just to be sure, make sure that's a non-issue. That said, that has value. I've already started watching some of the 958 listings on like Cars and Bids and Facebook groups and things like that. And number one question people have is, has the transfer case been done? So it's very much like the big three on the E46. You know, if it's been done, it's less of an objection, and it's also potentially a value add. So somebody doesn't have to go in and spend all that money to do it later. Same thing here. If I ever go to sell this car, which as you guys know, I like to move through these cars quite a bit, having the transfer case done with the proper paperwork from a place like Auto House is going to have value. Someone's going to say, wow, great, now this car's good for like another 100,000 miles in terms of like major mechanical. So that's also on the list. That's it. That's the sort of overview. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you're looking forward to another Porsche build. I know I am. Appreciate you tuning in. If you don't already and you are new to the channel, please hit subscribe. You're going to see all the updates on the 958 start to come out on this channel, but I've also got the Range Rover Classic Resto, the 89 going. We are looking for a buyer for the 91, so that project's about 75%. I'm going to move that on to the next project manager and let them deal with that. The E46 stuff, we've got more content coming on that, so lots to stay tuned for, but appreciate you watching this one, and I'll see you on the next one.